Podcasting has been is becoming really popular. It's not yet ultra competitive, but at the same time, it can give you a lot of exposure for your business, and that's a great combination. And you have a great podcast on marketing. Could you maybe tell us, like, first of all, tell us a little bit about your podcast and how do you, as a business owner, how do you leverage the podcast in order to get eventually clients?
Yeah, launching a podcast is very similar to launching any product. In my case, my podcast is called the Marketing Optimization TV podcast, and I'm trying to force myself essentially to create content, and that's the reason to create a podcast, because if you don't blog enough or you don't create enough videos, then you're probably never going to have any content to really compete. But a podcast really forces you to consistently generate content over time. In my case, I shoot mine all in video, and I repurpose the content into iTunes for an audio version. So the trick to any product launch is ensuring you know what value you're going to provide up front. My plan to launch my podcast was I was really trying to learn from the best I possibly could. Model successful people is the quickest way to get further faster and to really understand how to get results while learning from everyone else's failures. So I really sought out the best. John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire, I was part of his mastermind group. I was able to really connect with like-minded people who are also launching a podcast at the time. I also took Cliff Ravenscraft's podcast A to Z course, along with learning from Pat Flynn's free podcasting videos. So I really overlearned as much as I possibly could, because I had already dabbled with podcasting, but with any type of new tool or service that you want to learn, all those unknowns are just super scary. Recording video, you don't know how to record video yet. You record it, and you're terrible, so you criticize yourself, and then you have this resistance. You don't launch anything for another year. All those aspects come into play in any type of launch. In podcasting, you're dealing with new equipment, new technology, new ways of expressing yourself. And until I really forced myself to put myself out there and get feedback, I wasn't really able to really figure out what value I was providing. So up front, you need to ensure who your targeting audience is and what value you're providing. So if you're launching a podcast, a product, or a website, it's the same process. And while you're doing that, you want to ensure that you're building an audience, because it doesn't matter if you have the best podcast in the world, the best website, the best app, the best product. If you don't have an audience, if you're not giving back to your community and engaging with them, then you're really just talking to yourself. So launching a podcast is really all about building your audience, building a tribe, and then finding out what value you can provide from them, and then expressing it through a channel like iTunes. Now, the technical aspects of podcasting, I would certainly not recommend jumping right into advanced mics or mixers if you can't afford it. If you can afford it, it makes sense. But you can easily just use a USB mic, plug it right into your computer, and record through a free program or a program like use Adobe Audition and Skype. And once you start to really do it, you put together a brand, a voice, and eventually a completed product. Now, you're like, what do I do with all this stuff? How do I get into hosted media? How do I get on my WordPress site? You really have to connect with other people who have already been in your shoes. And that's really why I connected with John Lee Dumas and Cliff Ravenscraft. And they really helped me fill in all those gaps. So if you want to really launch a podcast or product, you connect with people who've already done it and then follow the steps that they have already. So then you get your podcast into iTunes. You're like, oh, wow, it wasn't that difficult. And you're like so surprised and like, I could do that anytime. But the trick to taking advantage of your release in iTunes is what they call the new and noteworthy category. In the first 8 weeks of you launching either an app or a podcast, you are featured in iTunes. And the benefit of iTunes is that you're not competing with as many people as you are in the regular web or on YouTube. So you have a lot easier way to get noticed. But you want to ensure that you use those first 8 weeks to ensure you build a nice foundation to eventually build traffic and leads and stuff over time. And when you launch any type of product, podcast, or website, you want to ensure that you have a way to collect leads along the way. Have a website that already has a lead generation tool with it. Have an email series or a content plan for at least the next 3 to 6 months. And then from that, you can really start to engage with your community and your listeners and understand what problems they have and create products and services out of that.
Yeah, I really like that. By the way, I was on John's YouTube podcast as well, and wow. John loves that new and noteworthy. Yeah, he makes everybody get on the new and noteworthy.
Yep.